Thank you, Roy. I've got a song here that I'd like to do that's been awful kind to me and the boys. It's bought us quite a few beans and biscuits.
In 1953, country music legend Hank Williams Sr. died in the backseat of a Cadillac near Oak Hill, West Virginia. His sudden death at 29 has left fans and historians searching for answers. Was it a heart attack or something more sinister? Join us as we unravel the mysteries behind this legend's death. The complex personal life of Hank Williams. On December 15, 1944, Hank Williams tied the knot with Audrey Shepard. This was Audrey's second marriage, while it marked Hank's first. Their relationship was a whirlwind of intense emotions and challenges, leading to the birth of their son, Randall Hank Williams, on May 26, 1949, who later became known as Hank Williams Jr. Despite their mutual passion for music, their marriage was plagued by difficulties, largely due to Hank's battles with alcoholism, morphine, and other painkillers prescribed for his severe back pain caused by spina bifida occulta. Ultimately, their relationship deteriorated, culminating in a divorce on May 29, 1952. After the split, Hank settled into a house located at Natchez Trace and Westwood Avenue in Nashville. He initially shared this space with fellow country artist Ray Price, but Price soon departed, unable to handle Hank's escalating drinking issues. As Hank's career began to falter, he embarked on a troubled tour in California that ended in disappointment. He spent time in various sanatoriums, but they provided little solace. By September 1952, Hank found himself back at his mother's boarding house, a place that felt both familiar and melancholic. During this challenging time, Hank had a short-lived romance with a woman named Bobby Jett, which led to the birth of a daughter, Jett Williams, just 5 days after Hank's tragic passing. Following the death of her grandmother, Jett was adopted by a couple unrelated to her, growing up without knowledge of her father's legacy. It wasn't until the early 1980s that she learned of her connection to the iconic musician. On October 18, 1952, Hank took a significant step in his life by marrying Billie Jean Jones in Minden, Louisiana. The following day, they celebrated their union with 2 public ceremonies at the New Orleans Civic Auditorium, drawing a crowd of 14,000 fans for each event. However, following Hank's untimely death, a judge ruled the marriage void, citing that Billie Jean's prior divorce had not been finalized. This ruling was heavily influenced by Audrey and Hank's mother, Lily, who were resolute in contesting the marriage. Adding another layer to the story, a man named Louis Fitzgerald later emerged, claiming to be Hank's illegitimate son, born to his cousin Marie McNeil. Fitzgerald alleged that Lily's boarding house functioned as a brothel, a claim that family friends vehemently disputed. One thing that raised eyebrows about Williams' death was how quickly his family fought for his estate. Could there be more to this? The battle over Hank Williams' estate. Hank Williams' untimely death left behind a tangled web of legal disputes due to the absence of a will. In May 1953, his first wife, Audrey Williams, initiated a lawsuit against MGM Records and Acuff Rose, seeking her rightful share of the royalties from his music. She argued that a prior agreement entitled her to half of the earnings from his records, but the validity of this arrangement after his passing was uncertain. This led to a fierce contention over the remaining 50% of the royalties, with claims being made by his second wife, Billie Jean Horton, as well as his mother, Lily, and sister Irene. At the time of his death, Hank's estate was appraised at $13,329.25, which translates to approximately $151,800 in 2023 when adjusted for inflation. Despite the modest value, the legal battles were intense. Lily Williams questioned the legitimacy of Billie Jean's marriage to Hank, as she had wed him just 10 days after her divorce from Harrison Eschlimar. While Louisiana law recognized the marriage due to her good faith intent, Lily's legal team contested its validity in Tennessee and Alabama, where the situation was murkier. The ongoing disputes prompted several settlement proposals. Ultimately, on August 19, 1953, Billie Jean accepted a $30,000 settlement. As part of the deal, she agreed to stop calling herself Mrs. Hank Williams, returned various personal belongings of Hank's, and revealed the whereabouts of his Tennessee walking horse. This agreement allowed Lily to gain legal control of the estate for the benefit of Hank's son, Hank Williams Jr. A complicated situation arose involving Bobby Jett, who had a short-lived relationship with Hank before his untimely death. Shortly after Hank passed away, Bobby gave birth to their daughter Kathy, but chose to leave her in the care of Lily. Despite Hank's sister Irene voicing her concerns, Lily was determined to adopt Kathy and successfully gained custody. When Lily died in 1955, Irene inherited the estate but opted not to adopt Kathy. Instead, Kathy was placed for adoption, with a portion of the estate set aside for her to access when she turned 18. Years later, Wesley Rose from Acuff Rose reached out to Irene about renewing the copyrights for Hank's music. He proposed a payment of $25,000, equivalent to about $248,800 today, to prevent Kathy from making any future claims. Irene accepted this deal, and in 1966, a judge affirmed her guardianship over the estate and validated the copyright agreement. Kathy's adoptive parents chose not to contest this ruling. By 1967, another court declared Hank Williams Jr. as the sole heir to the estate. However, in 1969, when Irene encountered legal issues, control of the estate was handed over to attorney Robert Stewart until Hank Jr. turned 18 in 1970. In 1975, a federal judge recognized Billie Jean Horton as Hank Williams's common-law wife, granting her a share of the copyright renewals. Meanwhile, Kathy, now an adult, uncovered the truth about her lineage. At the age of 21, she discovered that Hank Williams was her biological father and found a 1951 contract that acknowledged her as his daughter. Despite previous court rulings that had excluded her, Kathy sought legal acknowledgement of her status. In 1989, the Supreme Court of Alabama officially recognized Kathy as an heir to Hank Williams's estate. She later adopted the name Jet Williams, re-establishing her connection to her father. But before we unravel the full details of Hank Williams's death, let's take a step back and explore what might have led to the untimely end of his life. The humble beginnings of a country legend. Hank Williams, originally named Hiram Williams, was born on September 17, 1923, in Mount Olive, Butler County, Alabama. His upbringing in modest circumstances played a significant role in shaping both his life and his music. He was the third child of Jesse Lilybell Lilly and Alonzo Hubel Lon Williams. With a heritage rooted in English and Welsh ancestry, his family's background was closely linked to the Civil War. Alonzo, Hank's father, was a railroad engineer and a World War I veteran who sustained serious injuries, including a broken collarbone and a major head injury from a truck accident, which would have lasting effects on the family. Tragedy struck the family early when their first child, Ernest, died just 2 days after birth in 1921. A year later, they welcomed their daughter, Irene, followed by Hiram in 1923. His name was inspired by the biblical Hiram I, but a clerical error led to it being recorded as Hiriam on his birth certificate, a mistake that wasn't rectified until he turned 10. Hank was born with spina bifida occulta, a spinal condition that caused him chronic pain throughout his life, and played a significant role in his later battles with alcohol and substance dependence. From a young age, Hank showed a keen interest in music. At the tender age of 3, he would sit next to his mother as she played the organ at their local Baptist church. Lily's love for hymns greatly influenced Hank's songwriting, and by 6, he had received his first instrument, a harmonica. His family affectionately nicknamed him Harm, while friends called him Herky and Skeets. Music became a vital outlet for young Hank, even as his family faced ongoing challenges. In 1930, when Hank was just 7 years old, his father suffered a brain aneurysm that resulted in facial paralysis. After being treated at a Veterans Affairs clinic, Alonzo was transferred to a VA hospital in Louisiana, where he would spend the next 8 years. This situation left Lily to shoulder the responsibility of raising the family on her own. To make ends meet during the Great Depression, she took on various jobs, including nursing and working at a cannery. Despite the hardships, Lily's ingenuity allowed the family to persevere, even after a devastating fire destroyed their home and most of their belongings. With assistance from U.S. Representative J. Lister Hill, Lily was able to secure a disability pension for Alonzo, providing some much-needed financial support. Hank's journey into music truly began in 1933 when he moved in with his aunt and uncle in Fountain, Alabama. His aunt introduced him to basic guitar chords, and he soaked up the sounds of local dances and church events. The following year, the family moved to Greenville, Alabama, where Lily opened a boarding house. Shortly after, they relocated to Georgiana, where Lily balanced multiple jobs while continuing to care for her children. It was in Georgiana that Hank got his first guitar, a used instrument that cost $3.50. While some locals claimed they had bought it for him, Lily insisted that she was the one who purchased it and arranged for his lessons. Hank's most influential musical mentor was Rufus T-Tot Payne, an African-American street musician in Georgiana. In exchange for meals or small payments, Payne taught Hank the basics of guitar. Beyond just technique, he introduced Hank to the blues, focusing on rhythm, timing, and an energetic performance style. Payne's teachings blended beautifully with Hank's passion for country music, especially the sounds of Roy Acuff. The blend of these musical influences would ultimately shape Hank's signature sound. One of the pivotal lessons from Payne, the song "My Bucket's Got a Hole in It," found its way into Hank's professional repertoire. Despite his burgeoning musical abilities, Hank faced challenges in his academic life. In 1937, he had a clash with his physical education instructor, who insisted on exercises that Hank was unable to complete due to his spinal condition. After Lily's complaints to the school board went unheard, she decided to relocate the family to Montgomery, Alabama. This move represented a crucial turning point for Hank. Montgomery provided him with fresh opportunities to display his talent, leading him to perform on street corners and at local gatherings, where he began to hone his unique style. How did Hank Williams rise to become a country icon at such a young age? Was it solely due to his talent? Hank Williams' rise to country icon. In the summer of 1937, the Williams and McNeil families established a quaint boarding house on South Perry Street, right in the bustling center of Montgomery. This marked a pivotal moment for Hiram Williams, a young man filled with aspirations yet weighed down by the mundane. That same year, Hiram took a significant step in reshaping his identity by adopting the name Hank, a name that would eventually resonate around the globe. However, that recognition was still a distant aspiration. For the time being, Hank found comfort in music. His big break arrived when he participated in a local talent contest at the Empire Theater. With just his voice and a borrowed tune, he performed WPA Blues, an original composition. Drawing inspiration from Riley Puckett's Dissatisfied, Hank penned lyrics that struck a chord with the audience. His captivating performance earned him first place, along with a prize of $15, a considerable sum at the time, roughly equivalent to $300 today. This moment, filled with cheers, marked the start of a transformative journey in country music. Although Hank never mastered reading music, this limitation became his unique advantage. His songs were free from theoretical constraints, blossoming instead from personal narratives and genuine emotions. After school and on weekends, he would often be found on the sidewalk outside the WSFA radio studio, strumming his beloved Silvertone guitar and pouring his heart into every note and lyric. His victory at the Empire Theater and these street performances eventually caught the eye of WSFA producers, who began inviting him to perform live with Dad Crissel's band. In August 1938, Hank's father, Alonzo Williams, made an unexpected return to their Montgomery home after a brief hospital stay. This reunion was short-lived and tinged with sadness, as Lily, Hank's determined mother, stood firm in her decision not to let Alonzo reclaim his role as the head of the family. Alonzo managed to stick around long enough to join in the celebration of Hank's birthday in September before heading back to a medical facility in Louisiana. At the same time, Hank's rising fame on the radio pushed him to take a daring leap. He decided to form his band, naming it the Drifting Cowboys. The primary lineup featured Braxton Shufford on guitar, Freddie Beach on fiddle, and Smith Hezzy Adair as the comedian. Initially introduced as Hank and Hezzy and the Drifting Cowboys, the group quickly gained traction, performing at Thigpen's Log Cabin, a local dance hall near Georgiana. Before long, they were on the road, playing in clubs, private events, and eventually honky-tonks across central and southern Alabama. Lily, the ever-determined matriarch, took charge as their manager. By October 1939, Hank made a pivotal choice. He left school to dedicate himself fully to his music career. With Lily handling bookings and driving the band to their gigs, the Drifting Cowboys began to expand their reach, touring into western Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. However, with success came difficulties. Hank's drinking, which had started as a casual habit, began to escalate. On certain nights, a significant chunk of the band's earnings vanished into alcohol. The United States' entry into World War II in 1941 ushered in a tumultuous period for Hank. Although he was medically disqualified from service due to a back injury from a rodeo, his bandmates were drafted. New members came and went, many leaving due to Hank's deteriorating alcoholism. The situation reached a breaking point in August 1942 when WSFA dismissed him, citing habitual drunkenness. During a challenging phase in his life, Hank encountered the iconic country music figure Roy Acuff backstage at a concert. Acuff, impressed by Hank's remarkable talent, delivered a blunt message, telling him that he had $1 million voice but a 10-cent brain. This advice resonated with Hank, although it did not lead to immediate changes in his lifestyle. In 1942, Hank secured a position as a shipfitter's helper at the Alabama Dry Dock and Shipbuilding Company in Mobile. This job served as a temporary escape, and he later took on a similar role at Kaiser Shipyards in Portland, Oregon. However, his true passion remained in music. In 1943, destiny smiled upon him again when he met Audrey Shepard at a medicine show in Banks, Alabama. The two quickly formed a close bond, with Audrey motivating Hank to reignite his musical ambitions. They tied the knot in 1944, although their marriage was technically invalid due to Audrey's unresolved divorce. Returning to Montgomery in 1945, Hank rejoined WSFA Radio and began to broaden his musical horizons by penning original songs. He released his first songbook, Original Songs of Hank Williams, featuring tracks like I'm Not Coming Home Anymore. With Audrey taking on the role of his manager, Hank's career began to flourish. In 1946, Hank auditioned for the esteemed Grand Ole Opry in Nashville but faced rejection. Undaunted, he sought out Fred Rose of Acuff Rose Music. After witnessing Hank's performance, Rose recognized his talent and signed him to a 6-song contract. This opportunity led to Hank's first recording session, where he created songs such as Wealth Won't Save Your Soul and Calling You. The success of these recordings attracted the attention of MGM Records, resulting in Hank signing with them in 1947. His breakthrough hit with MGM, Move It On Over, marked the beginning of his ascent in the country music scene. In 1948, Hank became a part of the Louisiana Hayride, a well-loved radio program that broadened his reach throughout the southeastern U.S. However, it was the release of Lovesick Blues in 1949 that truly launched him into the spotlight. The song's heartfelt emotion and distinctive sound dominated the Billboard charts for an impressive 4 months. This newfound fame led to an invitation for Hank to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, where he wowed the audience with 6 encores during his first appearance. Who was behind Hank's tragic death, and what was their motive? Keep watching to find out more. Hank Williams' tragic final days. As Hank Williams' popularity soared, so did the burdens of his lifestyle. By 1950, he was raking in $1,000 per performance, an incredible amount for that era. Yet, beneath the glitz, his personal life was unraveling under the strain of unending pain. Born with a condition known as spina bifida occulta, Hank faced relentless agony throughout his existence. Adding to his turmoil, his home life was fraught with conflict. His wife Audrey and his mother Lily had a deep-seated animosity towards each other. Both women were strong and determined, qualities that occasionally benefited Hank. Lily had been a supportive force in his musical journey, even giving him his first guitar, while Audrey had encouraged him to pursue an audition with Fred Rose, which led to a profitable songwriting deal. However, their ongoing feud created a toxic atmosphere for the first superstar of country music. Hank's marriage to Audrey ultimately ended in divorce, and he later wed Billie Jean Jones, a stunning woman from Louisiana. Yet, even in this new chapter, his battles persisted. In the last year of his life, Hank placed his faith in a man who claimed he could heal him, but instead accelerated his downfall. Toby Marshall, a fraudster with a criminal past and phony medical credentials, took on the role of Hank's personal physician. Marshall promised to help Hank break free from his addiction to alcohol and illegal substances, but only deepened the singer's struggles. Life on the road was harsh, and Marshall's presence only intensified the situation. Band member Tommy Hill recounted the grim daily routine during tours. He and other band members often discussed how Hank's manager, Clyde Perdue, and Toby Marshall were taking advantage of Hank's earnings. Despite the substantial money he made, Hank seldom saw any of it. Hill noted that if Hank had even a single shot of whiskey, he would become intoxicated, so they decided to give him a 6-pack and ration it to keep him satisfied. Marshall would then administer something to induce vomiting and pour coffee down his throat to sober him up for the performance, repeating this process. Hill commented that they were essentially ending him, referring to both the booker and the doctor.
The doctor, and sometime during the night, the doctor gave him a shot. I don't know whether to rile him up, and we always thought that might have paid a big thing on his.
One of Marshall's favored remedies was chloral hydrate, a sedative infamous for its deadly effects, particularly when mixed with alcohol. This would ultimately contribute to Hank's tragic demise. As 1952 drew to a close, much of the South was enveloped in frigid weather. Despite the perilous conditions, Hank's bookers were adamant that he would perform a New Year's Day concert in Canton, Ohio. On December 30, Hank settled into the back seat of his 1952 Cadillac, with a hired driver, Charles Carr, responsible for getting him there. The trip began in Alabama, but Hank was already in poor health when they paused for the night in Knoxville, Tennessee. At the hotel in Knoxville, a local physician, Paul H. Cardwell, gave him 2 injections of morphine combined with vitamin B12. Meanwhile, Toby Marshall, waiting in Canton, urged Carr to continue despite Hank's deteriorating state and the treacherous weather. In the dead of night, they set off again. The roads were icy, and the car's interior was frigid. Investigators would later estimate that the temperature in the back seat may have plummeted to 0. Somewhere between Knoxville and Oak Hill, West Virginia, Hank Williams passed away.
The country America loves, with the tale of one legend. Hank Williams' last journey began in Knoxville and ended in tragedy just up the road.
When Carr stopped for gas, he found the lifeless body of country music's greatest star lying face up in the back seat.
One.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No, he stopped when he came into the red. He stopped it. His buster stopped it.
Although a local doctor initially attributed the cause of death to a heart attack, doubts lingered among those who knew Hank. Many speculated that a deadly mix of illegal substances, alcohol, and the bitter cold contributed to his demise. An autopsy did reveal alcohol in his system, but the absence of illegal substances testing left many questions about the true nature of his passing. How was the perpetrator punished? And why was he able to escape justice despite the truth being known? The untold truth behind Hank Williams' death. Hank Williams' music resonated with countless fans, and his untimely death plunged the nation into deep sorrow. On January 2, 1953, his remains were transported to Montgomery, Alabama, where they were placed in a shining silver casket at his mother's boarding house for 2 days. Devotees from across the South and beyond flocked to Montgomery to pay their final tributes. The funeral took place on January 4 at the Montgomery Auditorium, beautifully adorned with flowers, where his casket was displayed with great reverence. An estimated 15,000 to 25,000 mourners gathered outside the auditorium, while 2,750 filled the seats inside, including 200 reserved in the balcony for black attendees. Many lined up to bid farewell to the beloved star. The heartfelt service featured moving performances by Roy Acuff, Ernest Tubb, and Red Foley, accompanied by Hank's band, the Drifting Cowboys. They sang touching hymns such as "I Saw the Light," "Beyond the Sunset," and "Peace in the Valley," bringing tears to the eyes of all present. Hank Williams was laid to rest in the Oakwood Annex Cemetery in Montgomery, his hometown, even as disputes over his estate simmered among Lily, Audrey, and Billie Jean. 3 months after Hank's death, the intricate deceit orchestrated by Toby Marshall, the so-called doctor, began to come to light. In March 1953, Marshall's estranged wife, Faye, died unexpectedly in Albuquerque, New Mexico, despite seeming to be in good health. Her sudden passing raised alarms, leading to a police investigation. It was revealed that Marshall had prescribed her Caffergot, a medication for migraines. As the inquiry into Faye's death progressed, authorities uncovered Marshall's ties to Hank Williams as well. Marshall, a resident of Oklahoma City, found himself under heavy investigation. Just 9 days prior to Hank's death, it was discovered that Marshall had prescribed him a staggering 24 grains of chloral hydrate, a potent sedative known to depress heart function. The nearly empty prescription bottle indicated that Hank had consumed most of the medication leading up to his demise. With a dubious history that included convictions for forgery and robbery, Marshall eventually confessed to having fraudulently obtained his medical degrees. He revealed that he had spent 2 years in San Quentin for robbery and was on parole for his earlier offenses in Oklahoma. Oklahoma officials contemplated manslaughter charges against Marshall, but they encountered a significant obstacle. They struggled to establish that Hank had ingested the chloral hydrate while in Oklahoma. One investigator remarked that if Marshall had provided Williams with the chloral hydrate in Oklahoma and it had contributed to his death, they could have pursued a manslaughter case against him. Ultimately, Marshall's parole was revoked, and he completed the remainder of his sentence at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary before being released. In New Mexico, authorities aimed to build a case against Marshall regarding Faye's death. Her body was exhumed for an autopsy, but the findings were insufficient for charges, leading to the case being dropped and leaving the circumstances of Faye's death shrouded in mystery. Marshall's criminal exploits continued. In 1954, he was arrested in Oklahoma City for vagrancy, possession of barbiturates, and attempting to cash a counterfeit check. Always the trickster, he had checked into a motel pretending to be a doctor. 3 years later, in 1957, he faced conviction in Denver for illegally dispensing habit-forming substances without a prescription, resulting in a 6-month jail sentence. Despite the growing evidence of Marshall's deceitful and perilous actions, he was never charged in relation to Hank Williams's death. The coroner in West Virginia determined that a heart attack was the cause, and the ambiguity surrounding the exact location of Hank's passing left many questions unanswered. If Hank Williams had tragically died in today's world, the investigation would likely be much more comprehensive, and Marshall would almost certainly face legal consequences. However, in the early 1950s, justice for Hank was frustratingly out of reach. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.